Next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So, again, Kamala sat down for the seminal one-on-one with Stephanie Ruhle from MSNBC to be prompted with softball questions that she could respond, so she could respond with her boilerplate answers.
I mean, these things are painful to watch.
She's wonderful at taking a favorite vocabulary word from corporate speak and just sort of rinsing and repeating it to sound intelligent, like she knows when she's talking about when she's doing a deep policy dive on matters like housing policy.
And assistance to state and local governments around transit dollars. And looking holistically at the connection between that and housing. And looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner that includes prioritizing affordable housing.
The best kind of planning is holistic planning, I always say. Affordable housing means ghettoization, just to translate it. Affordable housing is what BLM Brandon wants to do in the financial district for all those, with all those vacant commercial offices. On tax policy, more deep thinking.
But we're going to have to raise corporate taxes, and we're going to have to raise
corporate taxes.
We're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. It's about paying their fair share. I am not mad at anyone for achieving success, but everyone should pay their fair share, and it is not right that the teachers and the firefighters that I meet every day across our country are paying a higher tax than the richest people in our country.
Forgetting that none of that's true, just it's unsurprising, of course, but it would be nice not to talk to Kamala Harris and not to sort of bitch in the direction of the comm shop for the Bolshevik Party, which is Stephanie Ruhle and all her friends at MSNBC and the rest of these corporate media outlets. But just to challenge your friends when they repeat those talking points, or people in your circles of influence, when they repeat the pay their fair share, the follow-up questions that are never asked, holistic housing policy, affordable housing, the follow-up questions that are never asked. It's fascinating. Sounds interesting. Explain it in detail.
Please, yeah. What does that mean?
So fair share is what number? See if they even know the number that Kamala has proposed. And, okay, so that's the fair share number. How did you arrive at it? How is it not 1 percentage point more or 1 percentage point less? Just give us the math. Give us the holistic, if I could borrow a word, thinking that brought you to that conclusion. In other words, embarrass people for what they don't know while they repeat can't from politicians who also don't know the meaning of the words they're using. It's the best you can do, but it's a start. It's something. It's not nothing. Scott the Cow Guy Shellady, market specialist for Market Day Report. 10:30 to 1, and the Cow Guy closed 1 to 1:30, both at RFD-TV. By the way, you could do the same thing if you go on like CNBC and have to talk to Aaron Ross Sorkin. You can do the same thing with your average man on the street. Scott the Cow Guy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Holistic housing is really meant for, what she means is it's for the children of the community. Because it's for the children of the community.
No,
because there's people in the community that have children that are in the community.
Yeah.
Okay, Scott?
We have to be unburdened by the housing policy that's been. I got it. Yeah, so the fair share argument, that's a novel one. We never hear that except every election cycle. The millionaires and billionaires not paying their fair share, and this is why you need a 33% increase in the corporate tax rate.
Well, I mean, it's because when you really look at what the upper 1% pays in taxes, I think it's like 40% calculation.
So unfair to those not paying
unfair.
taxes. Yeah, so unfair.
Right. And yeah, there's some people at the bottom end, they get more out of the government than they put in. So I mean, how much more do you want the upper 1% to pay? They already paid 40%. That's number one. And you're right; they'll never put a number on it because they always want that number. They always want your fair share to be a movable object. The goalpost can't actually ever be settled. And I don't know why people fall for it, but this is another one they play games with the difference between earned income and investment income, right? Earned income gets taxed at the normal tax rates that everybody knows and looks at when they look at their tax book. But investment income gets taxed because you're taking a risk. So you get more of the money that you make when you take a risk because you could have actually lost the money. As an employee, you're not going to lose money by going to work. But Leon Cooperman can lose money going to work. So if he gets a better tax break because he's taking money and trying to make something with it, that's earned income. That's going to turn into capital gains. But they never tell you the difference between the two. And that's what gets me mad about that Warren Buffett pays less in taxes than his secretary. Yeah, because he can lose a lot more. That's all. And that's the difference. People fall for it every time. Earned income versus investment income, two totally different tax breaks.
Scott, all I have to say to that is we ain't going back. We ain't.
to when I first started 4 years ago? I mean, I don't even know how this gets pulled over on the country. I mean, she's running against herself, and nobody will say it. I mean, it's frustrating. At least Trump's trying to do something about that. But how are they trying to frame the election as he's been in office up until today? I'll never understand how the American public falls for that. I really don't. And all the people that are on the left side of the aisle, all the people on the left, they hated, they couldn't stand her 10 weeks ago, and now she's the second coming. I mean, it's embarrassing.
Speaking of a holistic housing policy, some shocking news out of Argentina I wanted you to comment on. The 2020 rental law enacted under former Argentinian President Alberto Fernandez protected tenants by mandating 3-year lease terms, requiring rent to be paid in pesos, a currency that was rapidly losing value due to, triple and quadruple digit inflation. Rent adjustments were limited to once a year based on a central bank rate that factored in inflation and wage growth. The law also allowed tenants to dictate the conditions for lease termination, which is nice if you're a tenant. The incumbent president, though, Javier Milei, has a bit of a different approach. He repealed those rent control laws late last year upon taking office. And now we're seeing in Argentina, incredibly, counterintuitively to listen to the political class in this country talk, especially big city America, what's happened since he repealed those rental control laws is the housing supply has increased and rents have stabilized. What a stunning reversal. Scott, can you explain that for us?
Well, I'll put the numbers to it, Dan. I actually did this on my show this week. The amount of available housing went up by 170%. A bunch of landlords started putting their rental units back on the market. And the rents, if you index them against inflation, have come down like 40%. Now, nominally, they're a little bit higher, but they have so much inflation in Argentina that a lot of these people are seeing rent deals that they haven't seen in years. So it's fantastically successful because he took the brakes off. He took those, and you know what? What are the two biggest rent-controlled places in America? New York and San Francisco. Where are the two most expensive places to live in America? New York and San Francisco. You'd think that people could put two and two together, but apparently they can't. And for an Argentinian like Javier Milei to put this idea in place, and all he did was take back the regulations and let the free market take over, I mean, maybe we should learn a lesson and try that here.
Well, what about you get $25,000 and you get $25,000 if you want to buy a home for the first time? How is that going to affect the market?
It's intellectually embarrassing. All she's done is raise the price by housing of $25,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like student loans. All they've done is raise the price of college. I mean, this is actually fool's gold. I mean, I don't understand why people can even fall for it. But
wait, no. What about more important than that is since we have a housing supply shortage, available houses on the market, public-private partnership at the federal level to build 3 million new homes. Scott.
Yep,
it's exciting.
You know what I hear when I hear that? I hear $7 billion for 7 charging stations. Is what I hear when I hear that.
I wanted to get your reaction to this too. I mean, just thinking about the cost of living. This is an important issue, and of course, Kamala has an answer to it. It's something about being aspirational, and she's going to do something generic about it. We're not exactly sure, but she's very, very concerned about it. A survey finding that majority of Americans saying they would need to make $100,000 a year to feel comfortable that they could make ends meet, that they could pay their bills and the mounting costs of things like energy. $100,000 a year, I mean, that may not sound like a lot to a lot of people, but that's a pretty big increase that the median American is suggesting they need when household incomes, what's the median household income in this country, 65, 66 grand?
Yeah, I mean, over the last, 5 years, housing costs have gone up by almost 50%, Dan. And then you throw in childcare and rearing a preschool kid, those costs have gone up by 25. No, actually, it's costing you 50% of the median household income to pay for your housing, and it's costing 25% of your median household income to pay to rear your children for childcare and getting them going. Those are staggering numbers. That's why the number's $100,000, and that's leaving a lot of people behind. Plus, everybody knows the story about your wages have not kept up with inflation.
Right. And
all these problems, a lot of them have been caused by inflation, which was started with this administration. When they took over, it was 1.4%. So I don't know. The numbers don't lie, but for some reason, people continue to ignore them.
All I know is, again, I know this from Kamala, is that Bidenomics is working. So that's the depth of my thinking on it.
she cast the deciding vote.
John Deere got a scolding from Trump this week with their prospective decision to move some manufacturing facilities to Mexico. And Trump threatened them with a 200% tariff on goods produced in Mexico that they try to sell in the U.S. As somebody in the, spent a lot of time in agribusiness, what's your reaction to that?
I don't like that they're taking their business abroad. Absolutely. Maybe he could have done it in a more tactful way, but that's just the way he works. If he needs to sit down with them and tell them that this is a bad idea and this is what we're going to do if you do it. But, it's a good old, well, you know what? And to be fair, John Deere, and they were one of those companies that went real woke too. So,
yeah. True. They also cut a contract with the United Auto Workers that included a 30% raise over 6 years too, which and $8,500 signing bonuses, which is a pretty rich deal, all things considered.
Well, that's what I think. I feel bad for these port guys. I think they're a little late to the table. They should have done it when all the guys did it with all the automobile people. But anyway, yeah, I think I don't like anybody taking business abroad. I think Donald Trump's done a great job of bringing business back home. He probably could have had a personal conversation with him, but that's his way of doing what he does.
Scott the Cow Guy Shellady, market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1, and the Cow Guy Close 1 to 1:30, both at RFD-TV. Scott the Cow Guy, thanks as always.
All right, brother. Have a great weekend.
All right, see you, Scott. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm a doctor myself. I've used it and I've turned a lot of my patients onto it as well. It's a good product.
I've actually taken the bottles up to him, and my doctor, he tells me, keep doing it.
I am 87 years old, and I am an RN, and my PhD work is in anatomy and physiology. I watched your advertisement on TV, and I thought, I'll try